Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're gonna have to do roll call.
Oh, yeah, roll call.
Yes.
Okay, Carl?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And if I missed anyone? I don't believe I have.
Yourself?
Myself, and I say yes. I did, okay. Okay, in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually via Google Meet. For those who want to join in by Google Meet, the email address is meet.google.com/WPU-XNQO-NSH. Joining by phone, call 415-849-1899. PIN number is 334-167-803 #. With that, we're going to open the meeting out of order, and we'd like Brian Winter to address the concerns that we are looking at right now.
Yeah, I just want to give just a little background that,
Okay.
that Brian and I and Tom Coulter and Mark Tisdale met earlier this afternoon and discussed how we can go forward in a way that basically keeps everybody happy. I know the commission is, the committee is very much interested in seeing this project go forward, and we certainly understand the urgency. And because of the 300th anniversary. And also just want to apologize, Kim, to you. This came up at the last minute, so we will get to you as soon as we're finished with this.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so anyway, we talked about what we'd like to do, and I know the committee wants to make sure that the historic preservation restriction that's required under the CPA, the Community Preservation Act, is put in place. This is the fourth time the town has come to us with a request for renovations on the building, and although we haven't really pressed the issue like we probably should have, at this point we really need to get it done. And so I thought the committee would be agreeable, given that to institute a historic preservation restriction takes a number of months. So there's no way that's going to be done by town meeting. I thought an appropriate way to deal with it was to have the town submit an application to the Mass Historical Commission, which is the first step, once you have it drafted, of getting that underway and have that be acceptable. Brian sent a slightly different version of what I had put together, and I think I sent both versions to everyone. And I'll turn it over to Brian.
Okay, so first of all, good evening, everybody. It's a rare and special occasion that I get to attend your meetings, and also a personal thank you for advancing me. I know you have other people waiting in other matters. This was a late addition to my calendar, and I appreciate you taking me first, so thank you for that. Second, what Barry just described as what's transpired over the last 8 hours is accurate. We've been trying to connect on this for a while. It's an important and significant, project for the town, and we understand the committee's, needs and concerns, and we want to address those. And so I think we all want the same thing, and so we did have a Zoom meeting today to figure out, how to make that happen. And so there were 3 things on our agenda. One was the historic preservation restriction. 2 was, some historic commission matters, and the third one was just the wordsmithing on the motion itself, the draft motion, I should say. And so I think we see eye to eye on all 3 now. And the only question remaining is just the final language for the motion. And we certainly want the committee's support. We want the same thing. And so we want to be on the same page when we get to town meeting. And so Barry had made a little tweak, and then, you know, as lawyers do, we make another tweak and then another tweak. And so nothing unusual here. And I think, honestly, we're both really saying the same thing. And, you know, we're getting a little granular here with the verbiage, because one thing that's changed, you know, today is it wasn't entirely clear, you know, sort of who was carrying the ball with the work for the historic preservation restriction. And so I've stepped forward, asked for permission, and received it to be the point on that. And I've made a promise, as Barry knows, to make that happen. And so I have it. After we got off the Zoom with Mr. Coulter, Mr. Tisdale, and Barry, I contacted my real estate team. I provided them the initial documentation that I had received earlier from Barry, and we got right to work. And so that is going to happen. And so that's being done, and I'm taking ownership of it at this point. So the difference between my language and Barry's language and the original was this. And again, we're getting just into semantics at this point here. The original language didn't have the highlighted part, and it just required and instructed. So authorize and instruct, meaning you have to do this. Appropriate town officials to take any necessary steps to comply with the Community Preservation Act and any requirements of the Historical Commission and the Stoughton Historical Commission. So that's the mandate, but it's a pretty broad, vague mandate, and I understand the Commission's concern is to be specific and to make sure that this historic preservation restriction doesn't get lost in the shuffle again. And so Barry's language inserts that with specificity, and it ties it to the funding, and for the application part of it at least. And so my language is just a little bit different, because we acknowledge it's a requirement, and it's a requirement we have to fulfill, but I just separated it a little bit so that it's not tied to the validity and effectiveness of this article, but it's still a legally binding requirement. So that's kind of the nuance between the two. And just so you understand, the reason I did that is because the historic preservation restriction is actually not a requirement of this article. It's a requirement that sprang into being many years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, and it didn't get addressed. And so it has to get addressed. But it's not a requirement of the validity of this article. And so I'm a little uncomfortable tethering the two. We want to do it, and we're going to do it, and we're going to have the application filed before town meeting. But I'm a little uncomfortable tying this article's sort of life and fate to that requirement. And so I just wanted to give it a little bit of separation, make it an independent requirement. So a mandated town meeting that says you must do this. So we're absolutely comfortable with that, but I just wanted to give it a little bit of separation. So again, that's the distinction between what Barry wrote and what I wrote. And you know, Barry, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I think we both want the same thing.
Yep, no, that's what I would say. So does anybody have any questions for me or for Brian?
I guess I will comment that this doesn't feel like it really gives them the mandate that we were looking for. I mean, as you indicate, Brian, you were uncomfortable with tying it. We were uncomfortable approving the money because it's been a matter of well over a year. It came up when this application came in as pre-application. It came up again when it came in as a new application. It came up again in December. It came up again in January. And nothing's happened. And to make matters worse, we had an ongoing battle with the town over writing this motion. And it turns out the motion got written and not sent to us until after it was approved. Finance Committee went ahead and met on this project, didn't invite the CPC. I'm just not feeling real comfortable that we're being taken serious. My opinion, one person.
Understood? Yeah, I can't speak for, you know, the content. I don't work at Town Hall, and I can't speak to sort of the history of it. All I can tell you is what's going to happen after today. But, point taken.
I was just to go through the mechanics of how this will work. I did speak to Carolyn Campbell, who's the chair of the Finance Committee, and they have until Friday to submit whatever motion they're going to submit to the printer for inclusion in the book that gets printed for the special town meeting in March. So if we do amend it, the idea is to not have to go to town meeting with two different versions and not, and have to amend something on the floor. It's certainly much cleaner and much easier to have everybody on the same page and to have that final motion that we are approving printed in the book.
And as is tradition, your group is the group that makes the motion. And so that makes perfect sense to me as well. And so let me just read the language that I put in. So it says, and further to authorize and instruct appropriate town officials to undertake any steps necessary to comply with the provisions of 44B, including specifically the submission, approval, and recording of a historic preservation restriction. So, again, if you want to mince words a little bit, mine actually goes a little bit further, in the sense that I'm committing the town to not only applying, but obtaining that approval and recording it before this project can be, undertaken and closed out. So during the lifespan of this project, the entire thing will be complete, as opposed to just the application, because applications can take months, it can take longer.
No, that was actually a real concern of ours. When we discussed this back in November, December, we were looking at a 6-month time frame, and that's where we were talking about submitting it. Another change that happened without the approval of the CPC was they moved up and put this on a special town meeting warrant. We found out after the fact, and we reacted and jumped on it. We approved what we could do. But understand, we all want to see the project happen. So, I am glad that you are involved and you are taking the lead. That certainly gives us a better feeling where we're going forward with it. The step further you talked, though, that language, how does that differ from what's in the CPA legislation that said we should have done this back in 2019? Other than we're revisiting and we've got a plan, and that's a good thing. I'm not trying to totally kill the
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. And so that wasn't, to my knowledge at least, I haven't gone back and reviewed them, but that specific language wasn't included in prior articles. It's still part of the legislation, as you noted, but it wasn't in any of the articles. So this is a direct call out, a specific mandate. The other part worth mentioning is that the requirement that you record any restriction, conservation, open space, recreation, historic, or affordable housing, is triggered on the acquisition of property, not the appropriation of funds necessarily. And so this is actually a requirement of something that happened a long time ago. And so technically, the statute doesn't even require that it be in this article. And so this is above and beyond what would be required just for this article. So that's the distinction. Now, I'm not trying to say that convinces you or you should be persuaded. I'm just trying to explain it.
Yeah. No, your thinking is exactly why we made the condition.
Yeah.
Because it didn't happen with the original acquisition. It didn't happen on subsequent occasions when we had conversations about it. And we said this may be our last chance for a long time, and we did think there was plenty of time to get it done. And
Yeah.
I'm actually excited at the plan to move this up and get it done as quickly as they're going to do.
So, yeah, let me just offer something, and this is going to sound a little self-serving. I apologize for this in advance, but this committee has never asked, to my knowledge, for me to attend its meetings or provide support directly. I see the result of your work in other places, but I've never actually appeared here, virtually or in person. And so what's different about this is I promised to Barry and gotten approval for this, to work directly with him, keep him informed, as we've done on the other restrictions. And so I can appear before your committee again and answer to you now. And so that's a little bit different. It's a little bit of a nuance on how we've done business before. you've never reached out to me directly, I've never attended one of your meetings. I'm now gonna do that. And so Barry's gonna be copied on all my communications, he's gonna be kept in the loop on all the progress we make. And when we file it, you're gonna get a copy, and I'm gonna come tell you about it. And so that's, you know, again, a little self-serving, but at the same time, that's a little bit different than how we've done business before.
That's a pretty big nuance, by the way, and something that feels right and feels good.
To me, that's reassuring.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, you guys have always had access to council. It's not, you know, it's not by design that I haven't been here. It's just by happenstance, I think. And so, you know, I guess maybe a silver lining of this situation is, you know, nice to meet you all. And, you know, hopefully we'll be able to work together directly. I just, for what it's worth, I work directly with community preservation committees in other communities, and, you know, I often get a list of their projects and work with them on their motions and, you know, talk about eligibility and attend meetings. And so that's more the routine for me, but for whatever reason, it hasn't been the routine in Stoughton. So it could be though, and maybe this is a good, you know, place to start.
Anybody have any other comments or thoughts? Well, would someone like to make a motion to accept Brian's language?
This may shock everybody, but I will make such a motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So we'll take a roll call vote for this.
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
So it's unanimous.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And as promised, I'll keep you posted. And Barry, anytime you need me to jump in, preferably on Zoom, I'm happy to do so.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Brian.
Good night.
Okay, next is Hebrew Seniors Life Project. Kim?
Great, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to spend a little time with you this evening. Let's see, I think we said I was going to share, but I seem to be,
If you want, I can do it.
yeah, that would be great. I share on
Just have to
Zoom.
find it.
Hold on. Actually, I think I got it now. Here we go. Let's see if this works. So Deb Morse provided, I believe, the last update to you. She's on a well-deserved vacation tonight, so I'm happy to be here and want to give you a little update on where we are, and then happy to answer any questions or get into any detail that you would like. Just as a reminder, our project, let me see, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to advance it here.
There's a control, it's a stock slideshow. I think it's the one at the top that looks like a,
It's so funny, I share all the time on Zoom and it's no problem. And as soon as I get to Google Meets, it's a different world.
there's,
Not sure why it's not letting me advance it.
you want me to try and see what I get?
That would be great. Yeah, I don't want to hold anybody up.
Okay.
Maybe just a quick reminder, refresher. I know it's probably been a little while. First of all, just thank you again for your ongoing support for this project. I was looking back at our timeline and you realize how long these things take to get over the finish line, but we are quickly approaching the finish line, at least of getting to a closing, and then starting construction. So certainly very excited about that. And just as a reminder, this is 96 units, affordable senior housing, a lot of supportive services. You already gave us grant us the 1.3 million. We came back to you with the additional request for another 500,000. And I certainly can get into some of the details about that today if helpful. We've gotten a lot of support from the state and gotten all of our state funding approvals. And we are targeting this June, just a few months from now, for our closing. So I think if you want to advance to the next, well, that'd be great. We'll just.
That'd be great, it's not working for me.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
I was gonna say, I feel, I'm right there with you. So, right, here's just kind of that overview. And then I think the next one, maybe we'll just go to one of the, the site. So I think this is old news, just a refresher on the site, and then
Well,
maybe the next,
we do have a new
Hold on.
number, so I'm just gonna, this is at the corner of Canton Street.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
and then maybe if we go to the next one, just so you have the visual up, while I'll give you the update on what we've been doing for the last few months. We selected a general contractor. We're going to be working with Delbrook. They had provided all of the pre-construction work for us, and we went through a very competitive bid process and selected them recently as our contractor, so we're excited about that. We've been working very closely with our architect and design team on advancing and finalizing the design of the building, inside and outside. And we've now set them off to do the complete construction design set. So there's been a ton of work happening on that front. And then a lot of value engineering, and again, I'll get into some of the finances and the things that are affecting us and why we've had to do some value engineering, but that's been a big part of that design process and getting us to the final stages on that front. And then most recently, we've been working on just getting together all the financing. We had RFPs out for all of our debt, our construction loans, our permanent loans, our partners and investors on the tax credit side, and we're in the process of finalizing all of those selections now as we work towards closing. So I think, Barry, if you want to just kind of go through the next ones are just a couple visuals, again, just to remind you of the project. This is from the back, and the wetlands, and we've got some great outdoor space planned for people, as well as a lot of common areas inside, and some nice walking paths that go around the building. And that's just the broader view from the back. And then the next one is some fine print, but just to remind you kind of where we've come from and where we're headed. And again, I think this goes up to our, leads us up to our hopeful closing date of June, financial closing date of June, which means we can start construction. We've also re-engaged with the town just to get our contractor in there and start meeting with some of the town officials to gear up and make sure we have all of our dates aligned about everything we need to get to construction. So those meetings have been going well. And then assuming we start in June, we would be looking at an 18-month construction schedule. And then we obviously have on here, we put town meeting back on the calendar again, on the timeline, with the additional ask.
Question for you, Kim.
Yes.
You're meeting with town officials, mainly in the building department, engineering, and so forth?
Yes. Engineering and conservation.
Okay.
Deb had a recent meeting, and it was the first kind of formal introduction with Delbrook there as well. So, and we've just been backing into all the dates to make sure that we're going to be able to get our building permits, and get everything kind of lined up schedule-wise, and make sure that the town has enough review time on our drawings. So I think we're in good shape on that front, all working towards this closing.
Okay. Next slide. You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
And then just a little bit about the supplemental request. As a reminder, we've kind of put this out there as a reserve request, and our job, our homework is to try to not need that money. There have been a lot of macroeconomic factors that are impacting this project since we originally put together the overall budget for it. And a couple of the big items that have been moving around are, one, our permanent loan and kind of the size of that loan and just, where we think that's going to land, and then construction costs. And the, the biggest items related to those, and actually it might be easier to look at, there's a sources and uses. So if we go to the next one, that'll show you the sources. And this just shows you the timeline of, last year, when we actually submitted our formal application to the state, is that first column, and then kind of where we're sitting about today. And, these numbers, as expected, will continue to move a bit, but some of the big swings have been related, one, to our permanent loan, and that's just as we go through underwriting and, some of as we learn more and they learn more and things change in the market, that size of the permanent mortgage has changed a bit. And then we are showing the additional CPC funds there and the sources. And then, as I think Deb has previously shared with you, we also have aggressively gone after grants, and we were able to secure a Department of Energy grant, a very sizable grant, so that has helped offset some of the additional costs that have come up on the construction side when we get over to the uses.
Is that the carbonization grant? The decarbonization grant that you're talking about, Jim?
Yes, yep, that's the decarbonization grant, that bottom item there. So, and we've been working actively across all of our communities on a lot of various green grants and energy grants. And this one we were certainly excited about for this project. It's a sizable one that helps as we put this together. So if you go to the uses, this is obviously one big number, but I can talk in a little bit more specifics about why our construction costs have gone up. And as they've gone up, we've also been, as I said, doing some very active value engineering to mitigate that. So this number has been moving in both directions. But most of the increases have come from, one, as we fine tune the design and we narrow in on the cost estimates as our design gets clearer and more finalized. Our cost estimating is getting tighter, and we know more numbers with certainty, and so that's resulted in some increases. But most particularly has been the Build America, Buy America, which is new restrictions put on anything that we build under this program, and that has resulted in some significant increases in costs. So things like rough carpentry, door finishes, cabinets, windows, electrical, lighting. There are a lot of items that we've had to source different products for those, that the originals that we had in our cost estimating, we were purchasing out of country, and when you now move those to purchasing them within the U.S., they do have a premium on them, and so that has increased our costs fairly significantly in each of those categories.
Could I just say, one of the things we're looking for is some examples of that in specificity. I think that would help make the case, first of all, to Finance Committee, and
Yep.
second to town meeting.
Sure, and I can, we can certainly add a schedule in here, and I can send it to you after the meeting, and then we could use it in future presentations. But, just to give you a couple of examples, well, a lot of the wood that we use usually comes from Canada, and we now will source that from the U.S., and that alone has a 5% premium, which equates to $140,000. Another one is door and finish hardware. Usually comes from overseas. We now have limited options. That's a $98,000 premium. Electrical is a huge one. Lighting is probably the biggest piece. And then there are other components that are not, that we had in our project and that are typically used in these projects that are not made in America. And so now we've got to, as we switch those out, that is a $270,000 premium just in the category of electrical. I can give you a few others in specifics if you want now, or I can give you the schedule after. Tell me how much detail you'd like.
I think that kind of detail is good. And going back, Kim, from the first request that Deb had made, we kind of left it that it's gonna change a lot from then till when it gets to town meeting, so, but at some point, we gotta put a stake in the ground and say, okay, here's what we know about to justify, because a $500,000 request with no detail is gonna be tough to sell.
Yeah,
Clearly, you have more than enough details to sell it, so.
we do. We have a lot of detail, and I do think, as every week goes on and we get closer to getting to a closing, we will pin down, more and more whether we
Yeah,
have.
no, as I said, that's kind of how Deb had presented it back then, so you're consistent with that, so. But we are getting close now, because
Right,
Finance Committee's coming up, I assume, late February, early March.
yeah, okay,
And just to add to that, I think it was part of the motion to kind of give that detail, and I think there was a point that in the former presentation was that you were looking at different avenues to try to save that money. So I think that would be much more compelling for your argument to say that we went back and looked at everything and tried to cut costs there. And oh, by the way, materials has increased as well. So I think if you come from that perspective, I think it's, you have more of a compelling argument to town meeting.
okay, yeah, that's really helpful feedback, thank you. So I think we'll lay it out in a way that, gives all the detail in the categories and the totals of what has increased on the cost. And then we can lay out some of the specifics around the value engineering that we've done to mitigate that, in the specific areas that we've been able to find savings in the project. And, when I tell you, as you can imagine, we have spent hours and hours and days, with our architects and now our contractor, at the table, identifying places where we can, save a little here, and then we go back and forth about whether we're willing to give that item up or not. And we have more on the list that we could kind of pull the trigger on if we need to, and so that's gonna be the last kind of weighing factor is, do we do all of those value engineering items, or do we try to keep the project as whole as possible, which would mean tapping into this additional CPC money. The other, there are a couple of other things we talked about. I mean, the interest rates still moving are, again, as we finalize our financing, those rates are still moving around a little bit, but we're coming to a close on those. And then the other item that I highlighted in there, it's not, huge dollars, but it does affect our permanent loan, to the good. The way that project rents are underwritten, and our project rents go up, they go up every year just based on the schedule, the updated schedule. So, that's helping us on the positive front. That is kind of where we are today. I thank you for I think we'll certainly lay out, I think the only other slide in there is one you've seen before, which is the impact and benefits, and we've updated a couple of those numbers, but we will certainly put together a schedule that lays out the detail, and I'll get that to you as a follow-up to this meeting, so that if you have any comments to it, you can let us know, and we can continue to edit it before the finance committee meeting.
In Deb's submission of the project update form, she requested to come back again next month, and we meet once a month, so I would assume that's appropriate to schedule you for our March meeting a month from today.
Okay. Great.
Before we sign off, can we go back one slide, Barry? Can we look at the sources of funds again? 2 slides. The drop of the permanent mortgage.
Yeah, that was
Can you give us a little more insight on that, Kevin?
I can. I won't give you as good of an insight as I'm sure Deb would give you, as she's been, back and forth with our permanent lenders and, looking at the rating on this. I think generally, the marketplace has gotten more conservative on the way they size these. And as you know, this project, we have some of the units that will have a project-based subsidy attached to them. We have a very high number of units that we have to go market at that tax credit rent, right? So people have to be able to, it's a very narrow window, as you may remember, on the income level that people can be in. They have to make at least this much and, you know, not over that much. And then have to be able to afford that tax credit rent. And so, with a project of this size and this many units, when a permanent lender looks at that, they want to make sure that they have a little bit of conservatism built in to the underwriting, because we have to market so many units at that tax credit rent. And so, as they fine tune their numbers, that has impacted the permanent mortgage.
And so is that kind of a maximum amount that you will be able to get in the permanent mortgage?
I don't know about that. I mean, again, we're closing in on these numbers, so we will, by the March update, we will be able to tell you, I think with pretty much certainty, kind of where we are on that number. You know, we know that the overall number has come down, and this is where it's sitting right now. We're not done yet, so I think there may be a little more room there.
That's one point I'd be concerned that someone may read the schedule to say, oh, you dropped the amount you're gonna borrow, you know, funding it with 500,000 more CPC and $1.4 million more from the grant you got. And I don't think that's really what's happening, so yeah, I think there needs to be a little bit explanation there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and we can absolutely do that, and I think you know, it's a good point that optically, it may look that way. Obviously, we want the permanent mortgage to be, you know, we want to maximize that for everyone's sake, so, we will, one, know where it is, because we could, before we meet with you again, and two, and certainly for the finance committee, you know, and two, we'll be ready to speak to some more specifics around why that's changed so much.
The meeting with the
Okay,
finance
thanks.
committee, sorry. Meeting with the finance committee, we don't have an actual date yet, but they're gonna start reviewing annual town meeting articles the last week of February. So it could happen before our next meeting, it could happen after.
Okay,
And, I'll keep you posted.
okay, great.
All right, so you're gonna put together a list and get that, email it to me, and I'll distribute it to the rest of the committee, and that sounds like a good next step for us.
Will do.
All right.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks for your
Thank you
time.
very much.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you, Kim.
to see you all,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay.
Have a
next
good
one.
night.
You too.
You too.
Barry, it might be helpful if you could use your influence to get finance committee to not put CPC on the schedule until after the March meeting. Obviously, they got a lot of considerations to their schedule, so.
Yeah,
That Barry has influence?
Barry's, well, we got town council here today.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's very good.
That was good.
He'll be here every meeting now, right?
He knows how to represent his firm. And he said as much. Okay, who's available for the next item we have?
Paul Jacone,
That's all,
Well, you're gonna-
the next three are all gonna be me. We did get copies of the project updates. And just let me finish writing what I was writing. Okay. The next one would be the community center, and I just got this morning from Paul Jaffoon. That project, the interior of the community center is just about finished. He expects it to be complete by February 15th, and he said the only thing left to do, because the contractor is finished, basically, is just minor punch list items and getting a certificate of occupancy from the town. So that seems, again, I don't know exactly what's on the punch list, but it sounds like a really, wrap-up type of situation.
Also, regarding the community center, I sent an email to all the members of the CPC. I received an invitation from the community communication coordinator that they're going to give a tour February 28th, Saturday at 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. And all the members of this committee and all the members of the finance committee were invited. Did you all receive that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I did, and I felt special until I saw it was a public invitation on Facebook. So it could be crowded, because I think a lot of people are excited.
I didn't see that.
yeah, I did get another, bump on that from Tom Collins, he said he'd love to see all of us there, so.
I'll be up to make it.
I think I will be able to make it also. Thank you, Rich.
You're welcome.
All right, the next update, the next two are both from Jerry McDonald. The Atkinson Ave parking is coming along pretty well. He expects that to be complete by November, hopefully. It's about, I'd say it's about half done. They've done the parking area, they've installed the guardrail and the gates for, to go around the parking area. The big thing they're working on now is integrating that with the trailhead that goes into the 200 or so acres of land that's donated, and why is his name slipping my mind?
Steve,
What's the name of the guy who donated the land?
DeVito, Windows,
No, it'll come, anyway.
Goulston.
Goulston, thank you, that's the name I was trying to come up with. Integrating the parking area with that property, you've got to go, you've got to find a way to get there. They want to set up a kiosk with maps that are available, they want to, and they're, it's a committee, so they're working on designing a sign, and I guess there's been a little back and forth, and they haven't agreed on a final version of the sign. But that's what they're working on. And he said he'll come back in September and update us on this. Generally, Concom projects take a long time. It's pretty much, from our end, from the town's end, all volunteer, and most of that is Jerry. So, but, it's not like he's not working on it, he is working on it, it's just that these things take time. And the same can apply to the Bird Bound Foundation. The work is expected to start either this month or next. I guess it depends on how much snow is still on the ground. And the next step is that they purchase some of the small battery-powered tools that the town meeting article called for. And the expected completion date won't be till 2028. And so given that that's Jerry's project, he's asked to have him back in September along with the Atkinson project. So not much movement on that particular one at this point.
and those all still have the timelines, correct,
Which time? Oh,
for completion?
from our memorandum of understanding that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yep, and that's a good point, because we give them 3 years from the town meeting, from July 1st after town meeting. Although the Bird one was a special town meeting, so it's three years from the town meeting, but yes. And obviously, if they get to that point and they need more time, they have to come back to us and say, we extend that, so, yeah. So that's a good point, so let me just check and find out when the Atkinson project was approved by town meeting. Okay, so that was in 2025. I'm sorry, 2023. I take that back. So, so by July of this year, they'll have to come back. That's an excellent point. Let me let Jerry know that. So 3 years will expire in July. So, good point, thank you. Thanks.
That was a great point, and not to confuse the issue or get ahead of ourselves, Barry, but your timeline probably is 3 years from the town meeting approval going forward, given some of the stuff we're gonna talk about later.
Okay,
Right, okay. that's what you're
Okay.
saying.
all right.
Which makes it easier to track.
Yep. Okay. The next thing, Rich, the next thing on our agenda is our budget article.
Number 6,
Number
take
6.
that approval of the FY 2027 CPC budget article.
Let me get that and put it up on the screen. I don't know if that's big enough for people to see. The motion is actually in larger letters than the article in this particular case. But this is the way we do it every year. We delineate what this is in the motion. We delineate the amount that we set aside for administrative expenses, the 5% we're allowed to do, and then the 10% for the categorical reserves. And what's left over goes into the budgeted annual reserve. And the paragraph at the bottom delineates the amounts that we need to pay for debt service, for bonds that have been issued for projects that were approved previously, 70,000 plus for open space, 18,000 for historic, and 226,000 from the undesignated fund. Excuse me, Richard. I think those are all recreation projects at this point. We do have a list, I just, actually, this is here. So this is the list of projects that are, and it shows by column which category it goes under. So right now, the only thing that's coming out of open space was the original Glendeco purchase. That bond was probably the first project we borrowed money on, and that's a long-term bond. Anything you see in red in this were changes that I had to adjust just to make sure that we had enough money in the category we were taking it from. So all the, let's see if this will come up. Yeah, you can see the cursor. So all of these in red are all recreation projects. And rather than worry about having a negative balance in the category open space, I move those all over to undesignated. It wasn't just a worry, it was when I did the numbers, we ended up with the negative numbers.
So you had to move
So I
it.
had to move.
Yeah.
All right. So the question we have, the issue, what's on the agenda is, the only thing that goes in the warrant is the article in motion. So the question is, does the committee approve of the motion the way it's written? So we need a motion on that.
Do you want to go through the next page first, Barry? I think we've
Sure.
looked at it in a prior meeting.
Yeah.
But the next page is kind of almost the standard that we've always done. I think we cleaned it up a little. Barry's done a really nice job with this, but the budget motion is approving the $1,430,000 budget that Barry pulled together here. So you may just want to cover that piece.
Yeah, sure. This year, for the first time, we've tied in, if you look at the top, there's 3 columns, fiscal year 25, 26, and 27. Fiscal year 25 is over, so that's an actual number of receipts that the town got. Commitments is, what people paid on their CPA bill, on their taxes. Abatements is what people got back if they questioned it, and the net is $1,056,000. This current year, fiscal year 26, we're still in the middle of, so that's an estimate. And I think we go up by approximately 1% for our estimates from one year to the next. So the $1,077,000 in past years, for whatever reason, that number up here was not tied to this number down here, and really, it should be. So this year we did it. The state reimbursement is kind of, we'll expect at least that amount from the state. Usually we lowball it just to be conservative. Same with investment income, I have listed $200,000. That's actually something new, which wasn't in the budget in previous years. Michael found that we had gotten over $400,000 in investment income. And, well, we had earned it, it hadn't been posted to our account. So that's what Michael found, it had been posted.
Well, it was in prior years, and last year Biz asked us, or informed us that she talked to the DOR, and they suggested we didn't need to do it. And so we didn't put it in 26, but it was in 25, 24, whatever. And then the entry was missing. And we wouldn't have seen a big variance, so the fear would be that you might not realize you missed something. Not that we would miss that, but, so I had suggested to Barry that we put it back in here. It's a very conservative number that who knows what the interest rates will be in 2027. At some point, they gotta come down, we think, but we got, I think it was $311,000 this past year.
Wow, yeah.
No, it's a great decision, very informative. And
I think it helps, and as Barry said, even that first line,
you wouldn't have any idea.
for years, when Bill Rowe and subsequently the finance director, they'd have the 1077, and they'd put like 105 or 106, or it was a meaningless difference between the two, but it always made you look at the schedule and say, well, why aren't they the same? And they aren't gonna be the same at the end of the day, but if you're estimating what your revenue is gonna be, why wouldn't you at least start with a number that you're estimating your commitments are gonna be? So I always felt better if we put it the same, and so Barry did, and I think it works. The other difference in here, and Barry and I and Dawn have had a couple of meetings to jump in on you, Barry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We put in a total funding source here and then carried the totals all the way across. That's kind of building off of what I talked about at the January meeting, the presentations I made, really in tying with Biz together, how much money do we really have available? We didn't put a real number there. We had a number, we showed all the money that was in all the funds, but in the past, we had the total that was in the CPC fund, which included a lot of money that's encumbered, therefore it's not really available to us for the budget. So we cleaned that up and said, we're just gonna show the money that are available to us for projects going forward from today. And you'll see that we come down to the $4,767,000. I think last month I had that at a little over $5 million, and the difference is really gonna be in the, I think the debt service that we hadn't picked up the way we were looking at it last month. But that's a good number, and you're gonna see that again on my presentation when I talk about the two funds later on. I just wanted to leave a nice overview of what the two funds, I've talked about them in the past, 3014, 5040. So we tied that together and made it work on the budget sheet in a way that I think is gonna make it easier to follow for everybody going forward.
Okay.
I'll give it back to you, Barry. I didn't want to take over
No,
your budget present.
you do a much better job than I do, so, no problem here. Just continuing down, the other thing we did differently this year, put the cursor there, is this reserves and fund balances, those used to be combined on the same line. And Michael suggested that we put them on separate lines. The reserves, that $115,764, that's the amount that we put in each of the three categories for fiscal year '26 that was on our last year's budget. And what's happened since then is that we've had two special town meetings, which is why you see zeros under historic preservation and undesignated. The bird farm ate up $115,000 under historic preservation, and the community center ate up the balance under the 764 balance, plus everything that was under undesignated, which was, I think, approximately.
Keep those numbers in mind. We're gonna see them again in the treasurer's report that Dawn does, as well as in my presentation. And that's what I mean, we're tying this all together in a way that I think is gonna be a lot easier for people to follow.
Okay, so continuing down, administrative expenses I've already mentioned because they're in the motion directly. Reservations are the categorical reserves, again, they're in the motion, and budget animal reserve, again, part of the motion that I've already showed you. And the debt service, excuse me, is again also in the motion, these three numbers here. New project appropriations, that is how we had to allocate where the money is going for the new projects. And after you take up the debt service, you know, the idea is to use up your most restricted funds first. So typically that's the categorical reserves, because for example, historical preservation can only be spent on historic preservation. So the idea is to, and undesignated can be used for anything, so you don't go to that first, you go to that last. Just totals, and after the totals, this is the projected balance after all of the projects are recommended. If town meeting approves every one of them, then you can see the balance on the bottom line there. So we're using up a lot of our funds this year. We knew that going in, but the point is we do have the money to do it. So that's where we stand.
So at the end of the day, we got $1 million left at the end of the, okay. What's the $3,000 up there for other? Nothing, it's a big deal, I'm just wondering.
I think that's just, I don't think there's anything specific.
Anything specific? Okay.
Yeah. We didn't assign anything specific to that line, did we, Michael?
No, that was kind of just to round it off. There's always a few, it might be $5,000 to $6,000. I think we use 3 just to keep it a nice even number.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
Philip?
Yeah, there's always drips and drabs. There is a line, oddly, you'll see when when you get to CP2, there's always something there that happens.
No, that's a great report.
And then this is just the detail of what we talked about on the first page.
It's a 3 mil.
That's basically it. So, the other part, which I know Colin never changed.
Well, no, so now back up and get a motion on approving the motion.
Yes, okay.
I sort of
Okay,
pushed you ahead, but now the idea is to have a motion to approve the budget
So,
in this motion.
anyone like to make a motion for this article?
Motion to approve the article.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Roll call?
Wait, who was the second?
Don Brady.
Okay, thank you, man.
Okay, roll call, Bob?
Yes.
Carl? Yes. Don?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Dwight? Verbunde?
Do we have everybody?
Were they muted or?
I'm sorry, I had to step out of the room, what's happening?
We're voting on this,
Just say yes, you approve the budget.
I approved the budget.
and Morabunde?
It is, we have, you saw it last month as well, we just walked through it again.
And I did see the walkthrough, I just had to go to the wood stove.
That's okay.
Morabunde.
Bundy, are you here with us?
I am,
Okay,
yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes.
okay. Give me a second, I realized I didn't start recording at the beginning of this meeting, I just realized it now, so I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. There it is. Okay. I mean, we're being recorded by SMAC, but,
So on to item number 7, review the draft special town meeting motion.
hold on a minute. We have 7 of us, and everyone voted in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And yes, number 7 we've dealt with.
Okay.
That was the Briar Winter discussion.
Okay. Then,
Hey,
Right.
The annual town meeting motions, and let me get those up on the screen. We've already done the budget.
Nine.
Hang on. Okay. And a lot of these are pretty standard. What we tried to do this year is to have and I made a template so that when we go to town meeting, the motions will all resemble each other, they'll all have the same format. So if I called something a historic resources fund balance on one motion, I'm gonna call it the same thing in another motion. And the wording will be the same, where the number is will be the same, where the sources will be the same in every motion. So I pretty much just carried it through. This is for the town vital records. This is for Cedar Hill. There's nothing really fancy. Okay, this one is a little more complicated than the rest because in this one we have two funding sources. This is for the Stoughton Housing Authority project. It's $800,000 total, of which $115,764 is coming from our last year's budgeted community housing reserve. And the balance is coming from the community housing fund balance. In other words, the money that's already in the fund, the community housing fund. And those two figures together will add up to $800,000. And what
Which again ties back to the two lines that we broke out separately on the budget to know where the money's coming from, that we already talked about.
And what I did was I didn't put this together until I saw what had been put together for the special town meeting for the community center, so I know, this is all new to us. Biz had met with us in November and said she wants more specificity on where the money is coming from, what sources, and how does, for us to put that in the motion. But she said, well, I don't know where this money is coming from, because the motion doesn't state it. So I emailed her after the meeting just to make sure that we were on the same page, and I said, can you give us an example of what you're looking for? So I didn't get it. So I waited until the community center article was done, and I had a copy of that, and I used that as a model for how to write up a motion for something that's coming from two different sources.
And she won't be there to correct you.
She won't, I'm sorry, what?
She won't be there to correct you at annual town meeting.
Well, she might be.
Oh, she might be?
July 1 is her, I think it's her last
She was
day.
done in March.
She's finished full-time in March. She's going to be staying on probably through town meeting for the
Okay,
transition to
beautiful.
the new person.
Good to know.
And I heard today they've already hired a new person.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, and Dennison, again, same idea. We had to split this, $115,764 coming from the budgeted open space from last year, and the rest coming from the undesignated fund balance. This one's pretty straightforward for the hand pumper truck, for Joe McCrisky and the Historical Society, right out of the Historic Resources Fund balance. Stoughton Youth Soccer coming from the undesignated, even though it's over 800,000, it's all coming from the undesignated fund balance. And I can show you, if you want, how we determine where the money is coming from for each of these. This is Hebrew Senior Life, that's 500,000, again, all from the undesignated fund balance. Stoughton Bank Lofts, okay. This is interesting, it's 190,000. And I was able to draw from two sources. 90,000 from the Historic Resources Fund balance that gets carried forward from year to year. And the other $100,000, and this is something we're doing, this is the only article this applies to, is going to be from our next year's budgeted Historic Resources Reserve. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to jump ahead, because this excites me. I'm going to go ahead to, if I can find it on the, I'm not finding anything on, hang on. Here it is, okay, so, this, I tried to color code it, it's a two-dimensional piece of paper, and I really could have used like a five-dimensional piece of paper, but what I tried to do was color code where things are coming from, and I think probably the best way to do this is to do it page by page. So I'm going to Hopefully this will still be visible at this size. Anyway, I can change it. Anyway. Okay. Maybe that'll do it.
That is better.
That's better. Okay. So what I did was I put together a sequential spreadsheet. It's actually, we're all individual spreadsheets for each article. So we're gonna go to the first one. Okay, so the first one starts, we haven't taken any money out for anything, except this is the special town meeting article for the community center. As you see, I highlighted everything for the article that I'm showing. It's got the total at the top, it's got the name of the project, and the total, which is $985,000. And then highlighted in yellow is where the funds are coming from. $764, which was the balance left over after Jerry's project and historical. $752,582, which was the rest of, was what was budgeted last year for budgeted annual same, which is the same as undesignated. And we still had $231,654 that we needed to make up get to the total of this project. And that came out of the historical reserve. Because the community
Fund
center.
balance.
I'm sorry, what?
The historical resource fund balance.
Yes, yes. The fund balance that we carry over from year to year. So I'm just gonna go page by page. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time. If somebody sees something they want to stop me on, please do. Okay, this is next page. Really easy, $20,000 from the historical reserve balance for the vital records. And then, okay, next page is, this is for Cedar Hill, $250,000 out of the budget, of the undesignated balance that gets carried forward every year. And this is the housing article, again, it came from two sources. One from last year's housing set aside, $115,764, and the balance from the housing reserve that gets carried forward every year.
It would be best to keep calling that the fund balance, because that's how the accounting department looks at it.
Okay?
The word reserve is kind of generic, and that's why we've had problems in the past. Because when they talk about reserves, we don't really know what they're doing. It's coming out of different places.
Okay. Okay.
So that's part of what's driving Barry here.
Okay.
I just haven't got him to get that fund balance word ingrained in his head.
Okay. All right, and this is the Dennison complex coming from, partially from open space from last year, and partly from the fund balance that gets carried forward. Next one. And this is the antique pumper restoration. And if you look at the balances from one screen to the next, well, actually, you can't see it because it's down at the bottom, but the balances are going down by whatever amount of money is highlighted. And this is the soccer fields, $827,000, so that brings the fund balance for undesignated down to $44,000. And this is his Hebrew Senior Life, $500,000. So that brings the fund balance down to a negative. But because we're going to be putting in over $600,000 in the fiscal year '27 budget, it's okay to do that. It will be a positive balance after the budget is approved. And last but not least is the Stoughton Bank Lofts, Big Ten, Washington, and it comes from historic reserves. I wasn't able to take the whole thing out of the fund balance, so some of it has to come out of next year's budget. I just split it into two easy to deal with numbers, 100,000 and 90,000. Makes it easy. So, my question is, I'm going to go back to the motions. Are we good with the motions, and can we approve it so that we can go forward to town meeting, knowing that they're approved by the by this committee. So if anybody has any questions or anything that they want to add or comment on, please do. Otherwise, if someone wants to make a motion to endorse and approve these motions, that would be great. You don't have to be shy.
So, we need a motion to approve these articles.
Second.
How about first?
I think.
Oh, Bob? Who was the second?
Motion to approve the articles.
Place the second.
Dwight.
Right, okay.
So, roll call, Bob,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Dwight,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Bundy,
Yeah, yeah.
Don,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
Okay. And I'm going to continue on, if that's okay.
Yes,
Rich,
please.
with the next thing on the agenda. This is carryover from last month's meeting. We had asked Sudhir about the 810 Washington Street project. We asked him to submit a detailed budget. He did do that. And the question is, does the committee believe that that budget satisfies our requirement for a detailed budget for the project? And I'm scrolling down. Hang on. I don't know if it's even here. Hang on. If it's not here, I'll have to look it up. No, it isn't here. So the question is, what did I do with it? Hang on. I did send it to everyone.
He did clean it up considerably.
Yeah, he did- he
It was
did
a
a
lot
good
more
job.
understandable.
Um, bookmarks. No. That's not where it is, okay. Hang on, that's what I sent to everybody, so that's why it's not there. Hang on, give me a second. I will dig it up. I know I sent it out to
You did.
previously. Let me just find it. Oh, hang on. This might be it. This might be it. No, that's not it. That's one of the old versions. Hang on, I don't know why I'm not finding it. Hang on. No, this is it. I apologize for this. No, that's not it either. Hang on. I'm just trying to recognize it in the list of documents, and give me another second. If I can't find it,
I
then,
think I found it for you.
okay.
It was submitted December 2nd, 2025.
December 2nd, I think the thing I opened before was, oh, okay, wait a minute.
You sent this out to us December 2nd,
Okay,
and it had the update report, and then
email them, maybe that's the way to get it. If I can't find it, we'll just have to do it. Oh, this might be it, yeah. No. All right, let's just, put this forward to our next meeting, because I can't find it. Sorry about that. All right, so, and the other thing is conditions for the community center, we've already addressed that. So, we're going right to administrative items. Rich, I don't know if you have a chair's report.
My report is very short. I have to be reappointed. My term ends this year, in June, so I have to speak to the town clerk about getting
For
that.
this committee?
Yes,
Okay.
it was a 3-year term.
Yep, okay,
I have a 5-year term with planning,
right.
so.
So planning board appoints you to this committee.
Right, and we have, our next planning board meeting is February 24th, so I'll bring it up to them at that point in time. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. All right, and we have Michael and Dawn. I'm going to do this in the opposite order that it's listed on the agenda. Michael's got a financial report for the fund, and then Dawn will follow with the treasurer's report. So,
All right, could you put that up on the screen?
yeah, let me try to find it.
I'll go to the venue, I'll be right back.
Okay, all right. We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
You want to do that?
I'm sorry, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Well, maybe I can see if I can find.
I do see something on December 1st, the attachment that he said, "Hi Barry, thanks for the note." You'll see this, seeing the tuck pointing line is intentional. I need to reallocate some of the funds. So that's,
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the one you're looking for, but that was December 1st.
This is it. So this is an email from the 17th. Yeah, no, that's not it. It was after the 17th.
Okay.
So. Yeah, I mean, I had to go back and forth with him like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And so all I'm coming up with is all the ones that weren't what we were looking for.
How about one on the 28th?
Yeah, I see it. Let me try that now. Aha. Aha. That is it. Okay. So when Rich comes back, if that's okay, we can, we'll go back to it. I don't know where this ended up. But I'm gonna download it, make sure I have it. I couldn't find it in my files. Which I found the document I was looking for. So if you want, we can go back to the,
Yeah, let's get it done. Yeah, let's do
get
that.
it done.
Yeah.
Let me put it up on the screen. Okay. And this is the overall budget. This is not broken down by detail, but this is the overview. Window restoration cost, total historic preservation cost, $334,000, of which he's asking for $190,000 from us, and he and his bankroll will supply the rest. Okay, so here we go. This is the detailed budget that I was looking for. And again, it does what we were asking for. We didn't need the owner versus CPC on each individual line. We just need to know what the cost is of each individual line. He's broken down the total up here. So we were looking for the breakdown of the individual elements for each division, and he did supply it. And it took a while, got December 28th, so, but we did get it. So, that's it, I believe. Yep. So I don't know if anybody wants to look at it more closely, or if we can say he did what we asked him to and he satisfied that condition. So, if anybody wants to, I think he satisfied the condition. So, that's my 2 cents.
Anybody have any thoughts on this?
I just think on his presentation, he should have, a lot of pictures, and kind of highlighting, this is, masonry, this is the existing conditions, it would strengthen his argument. If I saw this, I'd be, a little bit reluctant to, feel comfortable with it. I'd want to see,
Yep.
so. I mean,
Just like a before and,
yeah, picture on the
Mock up
outside, this
after.
is what I'm planning on doing, and these are the bricks now, and these are historicals, and this is, so, a little bit more detail to help him get to the finish line, because town meeting will,
they'll be tough.
yeah, that'll be tough.
I will email him and let him know to do that.
Okay.
I'm just making a note.
Just a
So
suggestion.
pictures of the building as it exists now with the details.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
And then for each section.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
I agree with that. It's always good to have a visual.
yeah.
Yeah, in fact, you can probably use it when we go for finance committee.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so,
That'll be a good test for him.
yeah. That's for sure. All right, does anybody want to make a motion on this? That this satisfies the requirement that we get a detailed budget on this project?
I'll make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, we got
Carl
Carl
already
made it. You
spoke,
want to
Carl
second it?
spoke up. Dwight, you want to second it?
Yep, I'll second.
Okay. Roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
Bundy?
Yes. Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Right. All right, so we'll go back to Michael.
Okay, and I just call this the Community Preservation Fund Overview. And it really came out of our last meeting, and a continuation of that. that, and I just wanted to document, how the two funds exist, how they're used, and how it relates into the budget stuff that we've been talking about. I mean, we've been kind of hopping on a lot of this over the last couple of months, and in fact, I would say, I feel better that I understand them a lot better in the last 3 months with all the aggravation that we've been going through, trying to get the information and the conversations we have had with Biz. And I just wanted to get that down on paper for everybody else. So this is fairly straightforward. It's only a couple pages, although I'm now going to tie back into some numbers on it. But if you can flip the slide there. So just, we're going to talk the fund overview. We're going to revisit the sources of project funding, which I talked about last month. Barry just showed you the detail of how it works on each individual motion, which was pretty good. And I wanted to do this report before Dawn's treasurer's report, because we're going to see. I mean, that 115, 764 was showing up all over the place, which is what should happen here. These numbers should flow from one schedule to the next, because it's all the same information that we're using. And then I had this, and this was kind of working, Barry and I worked independently, but worked together to kind of come up with what he did do there, and he did a great job of it. And we got back to the same totals, but I was doing this on the side while he was doing that. I created my own schedule of what we have available on these funding sources. So let's flip a slide and get to the easy stuff. So first we have Fund 3014, which is Community Preservation Operations. 3014 fund is used to record CPA revenue and operating expenses, including administrative costs and debt service. Historically, some projects were recorded directly into this fund. So we've talked about money being transferred from 3014 into 5040, and that's where all the project costs are. But if you go back over time, there were some that went directly out of this fund. Mostly the very early projects, back before Munis when we were on the KBS system. The last project that I recall being in 3014 was the COVID relief fund. And that went in there for other reasons, but going forward, I would expect all of our projects will be in the 5040 Capital Projects Fund, which is the next box. The 5040 fund is used to record both project revenue and expenditures. I highlight, I quotated, with quotation marks around project revenue. What project revenue really is here is the approval at town meeting. So if we say $800,000 for whichever project is $800,000, they transfer that out of the 3014 into the capital project fund, and they call it revenue. And it's done that way, then they can control the project. The system will only allow them to expend up to whatever that revenue is. And as I said, as projects are approved by town meeting, amounts are transferred from Fund 3014 to Fund 5040 and are no longer available for appropriation. That's that encumbered money that I showed you in the past couple of months. Until a project is closed out at a later town meeting, and therefore it will get transferred back into the 3014 account. And I made a note here, Barry, we haven't talked about this. We haven't had any projects that got approved and then canceled, but if we do have any going forward, we should treat them like a closing, because same principle as what Biz taught us on closing projects. If the legislative body approves it, then the legislative body should close. So going forward, if we were to cancel a project after it was approved by town meeting, we should treat it like a closed project and go back and say, okay, therefore they would then transfer that money back to the 3014.
Yeah, I went back and checked, and since I've been here, which is the last 10 years, we've only had 2 projects that have been canceled. And the more recent one was a supplemental budget for the COVID relief fund, which we never had to tap into. And I'm pretty sure we did go to town meeting and have them cancel that project.
And again, that one was in the 3014 fund anyway, so there was no need to transfer it back.
Yep.
So we may not have had to have closed that one, but
But
just as a point, in the future, if we have a project, they may, and we're gonna see this when Don does his report, the way we'll be reporting on operating expenses and revenues, we'll see those transfers transfers. We'll see the 115 for Bird Street that Barry has referenced a couple times. So just as a note, keep that in mind that it needs to become part of the closing process.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, the other one I now remember was on Elm Street, the Elm Street fields, baseball fields. And we had an application submitted one year, and that turned out not to be feasible, and they had a whole changing board, a whole new bunch of people came in pretty much cold the next year and presented a project, which was the project that actually took place. So we had to cancel the first project, and I'm pretty sure we
But-
canceled the first project at town meeting.
But, because there's always a but, the way Biz chose to handle that, she didn't cancel it, she treated the second project as a supplemental to the first, and it became very confusing what we were trying to find in units. I would prefer to cancel and do a new project in that case, but, yeah, so the two examples that might fit, neither one really fits cleanly, but
Yes, that's true.
better to have the conversation up front with the accounting department is really the only point. Anyway, transfers from Fund 3014, and I kind of said this, are recorded as project revenue in Fund 5040. Bond proceeds and bond premiums are also recorded as project revenue in Fund 5040. In that case, there wouldn't be a transfer from the 3014, it would be the bond revenue that would be the project revenue in 5040. And I made the note, project revenue in Fund 5040 is not included in the CP2 filing because it's not really revenue, it's a transfer from the operating fund. If it was a bond, it would be revenue on the CP2. We haven't had bonds in a lot of years, don't anticipate we're gonna have any in the next couple of years, but at some point, we're probably gonna need to look at bonding again, so. Anyway, I probably belabored it a bit, but two quick summaries of what the two funds are. We've always, all my financial reports over the years, I've tended to just group the two together and look at the total. I think it's become clear on the bids that we need to look at them separately and treat them separately, because it facilitates greatly the communication with bids if you do that. And with presumably the new finance director, because it does make sense the way they're doing it. Next slide. Okay, so out of this, and I talked last month a lot about source of project funding. Barry just showed us the sources, the way he used them. And I was trying to simplify it. We've always known there were three sources of community preservation funding. That was always on the budget page without necessarily the totals. I think what we have there now is a cleaner way to look at it. But we had this fund balance, and that fund balance is the trial balance. And the trial balance was a fairly new report to us on the committee under bids. We never used to see that under Bill Rowe or anybody else, but it's the way she runs her accounting department. And the trial balance is a good way to look at your accounting system. Don will probably agree with me on that. So treating that fund balance, which comes right off the trial balance, we saw those trial balances, all the numbers that you saw on various schedules on mine tie out to that trial balance. The second source is the budget reserve. Those are the three categorical reserves that we always had, plus the undesignated, that annual budget reserve. And then budget revenue for the upcoming year. Barry kind of alluded to that with the Washington Street project, where we split that and we took $90,000 out of the fund balance and $100,000 out of the upcoming year's revenue. Which Barry, to make, I think we have to look at your, the Hebrew Senior Life, $500,000, and I think we have to do the same thing with that we did with the Washington Street, and split that and only take out of the fund balance what's in the fund balance and take the rest out of revenue.
There's enough in the
We can
fund
talk
balance
about,
to cover the
it
entire amount.
doesn't change any of the totals that
Oh, I
I
see what you're
looked
saying,
at.
it's a negative, you're right.
Yeah, I don't think we can go into a negative position like that. And we didn't look at that, when we were looking at that sheet the other day, we didn't talk about that particular project, we were so focused on balancing the numbers. But I think if you take that 500 and treat it exactly the way you did Washington Street, we'll be okay. And even though we voted to approve all that, consider that a minor technical change in the background. And we can talk about that if you need, Barry.
Yep.
So within each of these three sources of funding, there are 4 categories. Open space, historic resources, community housing, and undesignated. So those are our 12 buckets, if you will, of funding that is available for the budget. And then on the next page, I wanted to kind of give a picture, and I don't want to go through the numbers, there's a lot of numbers on this page, but this is taking and showing those budgets in, again, what we talked about last month, the hierarchy of how we should use the funding, which is what Barry went through and talked about a little. The first place we should do our projects. I mean, new to us with this whole process is the recognition that all of these projects, with the exception of Washington Street and Hebrew Senior Life, aren't coming out of fiscal year 2027, even though we thought of it as our fiscal year 2027 budget. They're all coming out of existing funds, and once approved by town meeting, we can go forward with those. We can start spending money June 1st. We don't have to wait till July 1st. It's just like something that's approved at a special town meeting. Once town meeting approves it, we can go forward on the project. That's a little bit of a change, and that's what I was alluding to earlier when we said our 3-year time frame really starts the day town meeting approves it, with maybe the exception now of Hebrew Seniors Life, 500,000, and 100,000 on the Washington Street project, which are identified going in as fiscal year 2027 revenue. Therefore, we can't touch them until July 1st. Subtle point that shouldn't change a whole lot, but just the way to think of it. So what I was doing here is I showed the available funding sources for the special town meeting in March. And you see, those are my 4 categories: open space, historic housing, and undesignated. The first line is the current year budgeted reserves, the 115,764. There's only 764 in historic, because as Barry alluded to earlier, we used 115,000 out of that bucket for Bird Street at the special town meeting in October. Housing has the 115,764, undesignated had 752,582. We then had that fund balance, which was the trial balance. Those are the numbers. We saw them in December, we saw them again in January, but that ties right back to the munis report that we get for the trial balance. And I did that because we wanted to show, and Barry kind of alluded to it as he went through what he did, how we were taking the money. So we're seeing here a replica of what Barry did. We took 764 out of the budget reserve, 752,582 out of the undesignated, and then 231,854 out of the fund balance. And again, the first place we should try to use up the money is the current year, which for us today is fiscal year 2026, that budget. Once we've used up all that money, we dig back into the fund balance out of the trial balance. This is probably the first year that we used up both of those and had to dip into next year's budgeted revenue. Because even going back to the early days, the first couple of years we collected revenue, we weren't spending a lot of money. So we already had a fund balance to draw stuff down on. So we showed the community center how that affected those balances. And then the other day, Barry and I were talking through this, and I realized, well, we also got to pick up, if you recall last month, I hopped a little bit, that in the fund balances on the CP2, there was a special fund, which was the debt service, which only had $305,000 in it, and it should have had $330,000 in it. So it was off by $24,919. So we adjusted the balance for that. It doesn't affect what we're doing, but we wanted to get to the right balance. So that brings us to what we have available going into the ATM and the annual town meeting in May. And then these numbers pretty much reflect what Barry had at the top of his budget. And that's what I said. I did this on one hand, he did his on the other, and yet we arrived at the same place by line item and by bucket. So that was pretty good. The one thing I also noticed, though, as I was talking, where I have a couple of lines that say fund balance underneath the community center, fund balance, historic reserves, that really should just be fund balance. Well, actually, it's okay on that because that's the only line, but further down, I copy and pasted and I said fund balance, historic reserves, but I'm showing numbers in all four columns. That really should just say fund balance, end of conversation. And then you know which fund balance is coming out of by which column it's in. That was the horror, as Barry was talking earlier, and I realized when I looked at the sheet, I said, uh-oh. I made a boo-boo here, so. Anyway, the whole point being, we worked up, I was on one year working up the available funds by source and category, Barry was working up a budget, we're able to show how they come together. Any questions about all that? Any concerns? I think further down the page, you can't see it, but we just show, again, what the upcoming appropriation is gonna be, the admin expense, the debt service, and the projects. That's the same as what we saw in the budget as well, so.
So it seems as you and Barry came to the same conclusions here, that answers any concerns I would have, I mean, I'm good to go.
Yeah, no, I was actually proud of Barry that day. His sheet obviously had a lot of numbers. He had to go through a lot of detail and painstaking to figure out what he was doing there. I was kind of just doing it off in total. But we should have arrived at the same place. We did arrive at the same place, so I think that's a good starting point for going forward for the budget. And we met with Dawn, well, I met with Barry met with Dawn, so I think all three of us are in the loop. And then I'm gonna turn it over to Dawn, I think, next for the treasurer's report, which I think we're gonna see some of this same logic flowing into the reports coming out of Munis for the treasurer's report. So with that, Dawn, it's your name.
Thank you. First off, I want to say something. Both Michael and Barry have been generously calling this my treasurer's report. And quite frankly, it's their work, and I'm just plagiarizing off it. And I also do, since I'm the neophyte here, I'm going to go through this as best I can, but I much welcome their comments as I do. I respect their knowledge. So
Barry,
Barry,
we're gonna get them whether you welcome them or not. Go ahead.
can we go to page 3, Barry?
I gotta
And,
enlarge it.
Okay, so the period, of course, here, 2026 year to date, we're talking about revenue, and I'm going to focus on the year-to-date actuals, for what we're talking about here. And so if you see here, total revenue, 780,000, forgive my eyesight, 901.90 cents. And that's made up, I'm summarizing here, it's made up really from 3 categories. You have your surcharges, which go from the years 2022 to 2026.
Enlarge it.
And if you notice those smaller amounts in those early years, it's what you're expecting. You're seeing the larger part, in 2026. And then you have your interest, your penalties, and your liens. And then finally, on the last line, you have your the state CPA contribution. So that's the components making up those actuals. And then if we could, Barry, before I go any further, just jump to page 4.
Yep.
Same time period expenditures, and again, the middle column, is that 4? I'm sorry. I'm looking at the actuals, they're like in the middle. And these are the actual expenditures through this period, and they comprise mainly of wages, supplies, some dues and subscriptions that we have. There's a notation here for the CPA Historic Reserve, and then primarily the largest part in the expenses is the debt. The debt service broken down in principal and interest. And those expenses totaling out 384, 586, 72. And if you go back to the revenue page, you see that tying out. And our final our final remaining after revenue and expenses, 396, 315.
So let me just add a few things, because Dawn, you and I didn't get a chance to talk. I read that for Dawn right off in the Munis report, which is what I always use. that format is largely the same I've always used, although I didn't get into revenue a whole lot over the years, because we didn't use to see revenue, they just give it to us at the end of the year on the CP2. But go back to the revenue page, Barry. What you will see there, the other thing I would have mentioned on the budget, the 1007, so 1157, that was our budget for fiscal year 2026. As we said earlier, we did not budget any interest income. But what we found out in 2025, we almost missed the money, so we put it back in this year. So you had your budget, you had your revenue, there's always dribble, we've seen that, we've seen it on other reports in the past, but I wanted to make this as easy for Don to just capture it right out of the report, not have to do a lot of formatting or anything. There's a couple of steps that Barry and I walked through and Don walked through on how you get there, but I think it's a workable solution, but if you have a problem with it, Don, I'm only a phone call away. So now on the expenditures, next page. As I alluded to, looking at the budget column there too, you can see where we broke down the admin expenses by category, which is something, Barry, that you need to do for town meeting.
Yep.
That was something Biz had asked us. But you could see those same numbers. There's the budgeted annual reserve, 752,582. Well, that's the number that we scooped to pay for the community center project. The 115,764 for the three categories, as Barry had said earlier, that's what the budget was for each of those categories. The 115 is the money being transferred to the 5040 for Bird Street, which was approved at the special town meeting. The balance of 764 that you see over to the right, the available budget, that was money we just scooped for the community center project as well. We took the 764 in 752,000, and then we still had to dip back into the fund reserves, the fund balances that I showed you in my presentation. So I think it's better that we look at that. You will see, I mean, that line with the transfer of the 115,000, there'll be a lot more money in that next year if we succeed at town meeting. You'll see it, but you'll know that money is coming out of 3014 and it's going to go into 5040.
Question.
So now I'll go back to you, Dawn, and
Question that anybody can
Okay.
answer. On the line item dues and subscriptions, what does,
coalition dues.
who do we pay dues to?
Total.
The statewide Community Preservation Coalition.
Okay, so that 4350 represents dues only?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that number is determined by what?
It's determined by how much we take in revenue from, for each year. So as that goes up, we get into a higher bracket and the dues go up. Right now, we just got into the bracket we're in now, so our bracket, that expense should not be going up, at least by bracketing, anytime soon.
Okay.
And the one other thing in here, the encumbrance column, you can see, they have not yet paid out all of the debt service for fiscal year 2026, but they've already issued purchase orders or contracts, or however they've done it, but you can see that's why that money is encumbered. And money that's in that column will end up on the CP2 as encumbrances, if there were any. There usually isn't on the 3014 fund, but
I have another question. On
Yeah.
that columns for actual, year-to-date actual, on the bottom line, revenue, expense, and total, revenue's in a negative, expenses is in a positive, and the grand total's a negative. Shouldn't that be the other way around?
No, revenue's greater than expenses.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I understand what he's asking, and from a non-accountant's point of view, it's strange to see a negative number showing you how much money you have, and I can't answer that.
Operationally, revenue, and I understand completely what you're saying, but operationally, revenue is presented as a negative number and your expenses are presented as debits. And that's why it looks in that fashion. You could reverse it, I suppose, but that's why it looks like it does.
again, part of my mission here was to make this as easy going forward for Dawn. I didn't used to put revenue in, so the reports always had it that way, I just kind of presented everything as debits, 'cause it's easier to look at it that way, but
Okay.
it is what it is, and it's not worth asking Dawn to do extra work, because this particular file has 21,000 rows of input getting summarized onto the page you're looking at. So, it's just not worth going crazy. Those 21,000, think about it. Every single taxpayer in Stoughton pays, I don't know, twice or four times a year, twice a year, I guess.
4 times
So,
quarterly.
yeah, you get a lot of transactions. Speaking of transactions, that's what's on the next page that Dawn's gonna walk through.
But just to go back to that point, that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons why when we ask for reports from the finance department, yeah, we'll take a PDF, but if you, which is what we're looking at here is a PDF, but if you get it as an Excel spreadsheet, if you get 20,000 lines, you can filter it, so you don't have to look at all of it.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Back to you, Don.
Okay. This is the accounts payable transaction that Mike was talking about, the operating fund, 3014. And it has a nice little summary, here at the bottom of the expenses. As you can see, it's marked AP, and I'm assuming since there is a check number here, all these have been paid.
Yeah, these are all actual accounts payable transactions.
Yep.
The file, Dawn, there were hidden columns on here because it would be minuscule to look at, but you can look up the day it was processed. I mean, obviously, we kept some key columns like vendor, check number and stuff. All of the detail is there behind the scenes. These two columns give you kind of a good overview. The US Bank is all the debt service stuff. And then literally payment by payment, they code it a certain way so that they know general obligation bonds dated X.
Yeah, that's what GOBs are, general obligation bonds.
Yeah.
And if you look at that summary, the debt service, $252,718, that's the combination of the principal and interest, which will tie back to the expense page that we looked at. You have the surcharge, reversals, $33,000, and then just what we were talking about before, the coalition dues, you can actually see the payment right there on the line, the $43.50. Community Preservation Coalition, it's second from the bottom, and then some miscellaneous office supplies that we needed for $39.
So the one other thing I'd mention on this page, and the reason I left it here, you see the 3/4 of the way down the page, the $27,000 charge to IV3 Stoughton Logistics, and it says RE 2026. That's getting charged against revenue. So we have this surcharge coming in, and then they're paying back, and that's either because they haven't yet, what is it? It's the new logistic park, which is in the system to get billed for taxes. They must pay it, and then we pay them back. It's part of the deal they got going on with the town for a while. Not a big deal, but you can actually go through the 21,000 rows of input and find the two payments that they made that are now getting paid back. I thought it would be good. At least we know what's going on. It's legitimate. We don't have to do anything about it, but we should at least be aware of it. It does make me think, I don't know why the abatements or whatever they show on CP1 are so low if they're paying that much money back to them, but it's how they're classifying it, I guess.
Yeah, because obviously that isn't included in the abatement figure that we saw.
Well, but this is also fiscal year 2026.
Well,
This is probably, that's why I called it a reversal, but
yeah, okay.
whatever, we'll stumble into that in future years.
All right. Next page is project.
Next page, you get into the project expenses, which Michael mentioned, the 50/40 fund. And I've actually been studying this, and I have a few questions almost myself, that this report must not only include expenses, but encumbrances. Because I noticed the town pocket park is here, and I don't believe anything's even begun on that.
Well, you're gonna gonna see it on another page, so. I don't know the answer to that, we'll see it on another page. This was actually, was spent halfway through the year, we spent $1 million. This is record spending for us. Typically, when we get a report in December or January, we were like at half of this money. So this is the first time we've looked at it, and these are the projects that we know that, moving along, the Halloran Park project, the Marks Field, and the Wilkins School Playground being the three biggies. In the Town Hall Park, but we'll see what that's, so there are 11 transactions. So something is getting paid out there, Dawn, is what that's telling us, but you'll see it in a couple pages. Okay.
I'm just checking to make sure that munis, yeah, that is the right munis number, so I don't know. Okay, it's a mystery. And this is the detail, correct, or do these two
Yeah.
pages relate to this?
Yes. And the next two pages is the detailed transactions adding up to the $1,077,000. I don't recall if I put a total in there, but it is. So you can see Hanson's Playground, you can see some big stuff going on there. You can see the design services on the train depot at the top. These are all the individual transactions, and it's important to look at these because I think on the bottom of the next page, you're gonna see one that shouldn't be there. But it was reversed. You have to be told.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, says Climate Action Committee, so got charged to our account, we pointed it out, they did fix it.
I'm trying to see if there's any way, if I can tell off this page. You can look at that file that I had sent you, Dawn, and see what's in the train depot. There were 11 transactions. This doesn't seem to have the, this page doesn't have the munis number on it, so you can't see.
Can't match it across, yeah.
But it could have been, I just didn't think to put it there is the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't think.
No, I was just curious, because it's close to, $500,000.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the detail that connects to the pocket parks.
Connects to the pocket park, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
You wanna-
Let me take a look at a file or two. But you can go on. I think that may get anyway in that report, but I'll look that up while we're talking.
Okay.
Okay. So again, this page here, on page 6, is the summary of the project expenses. The munis number for the project is there, the expenses, and the account of the invoices. And the pages that follow, 7 and 8, support those expenses, relating to those projects spent, year to date. And the total on projects right now is $1,077,344.94.
Although a large portion of that is the town hall pocket parks, and that's kind of a mystery why that's there.
Yeah. Like I said, I couldn't spot it in the back pages, but I figured I just missed whatever the caption was.
This is probably a good
Actually,
time.
that must be a bad number, Barry, because what I'm seeing in the comments is a lot of the stuff that said, well, I clicked on that,
There's 11 transactions too.
442, and a lot of those transactions say Hanson Playground.
Ah, okay.
So Dawn is right, there probably isn't. I'll have to look at that and see what's on the file that, in fact, one of them says 88 tables, so there must be a problem with the way we created the munis number there.
Yeah, because the Hanson Playground on the page 7 has a one expense amount there, about a little more midway down, $250,000. And that's the only expense on the page, come up to 442.
Yeah, that 250 is actually showing up as the munis project 25-151, so
Oh,
there is an error in there, but to good eye. But that's kind of what you're gonna have to be looking out at when you do this.
so is it possible that the finance department put those expenses into the wrong?
No. That is, Barry, if you and Dawn remember a couple weeks ago when we talked and I showed you how we have to create our own munis number on the file because of the format.
Yeah,
We did the formula, if error value, da-da-da-da-da.
yeah,
That has to be doing something wrong on that file.
okay.
But I can look at that and verify it, so.
Yeah, so chances are those are expenses, they're just not for that project.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we translated it wrong, and I translated it wrong into that project number.
I tabbed the pages 8 and 9 and came to the total of 1,707,000, that's so,
Okay.
Yeah, no,
they're there.
Okay,
It's just,
I knew that part was right, I'm curious as to why that formula picked it up under the wrong, it should have been under, in 25, I also see project number 25155, is that?
yeah, that's Glen Echo, that's the pavilion.
Yeah, so for some reason, that's just an error in our translation, I'll update that and send you a corrected page.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's on that, year-to-date budget report that you guys looked at. But I had missed that, I had just run it and took it to B. I knew the totals were correct.
yeah,
Yeah, and I just want to take this
And I should
opportunity.
have included, in running that report, I should have included the munis number, Dawn. I mean, it's on the file, I just didn't pick it up as part of that.
I was going to say that I've been working with town procurement officer, Fran Brutiniti. You might not be aware, on our grant agreements, which we give to everyone who gets money every year, if they're not the town, they get a grant agreement. If they're part of the town, they get a memorandum of understanding, MOU. And one of the conditions is that we get copies of every invoice. That hasn't been happening. So I've been working with Fran, and she's sent me a bunch of invoices already. So, and I just got a copy of an invoice that just came in. So hopefully, as they come in, we'll be getting them. And I sent it over to Dawn when I got it. So the question is, are we approving them or not? And that's still a gray area. In that case, that was an invoice for Marks Field. So what's been going on with Marks Field is they have them approved through the engineering department because they're working Stolax is working very closely with the engineering department on that project. So the engineering department probably has a better feel for whether these invoices are appropriate than we do, at least on that level, on the level of individual invoices. But it helps us, it's good for us to see them. It's another set of eyes. If we see something that we have a question on, we can always question it. In fact, yeah, the other invoice I got recently was on the Glen Echo project for the benches. And I don't know if you remember, but Eric Coleman had come to us, and there was an ADA bench, and then he went to a different model, and I had forgotten that. And the different model he had gone to, the color was matched to the color of the pavilion, but it was a lot more money. And the quote that I found in my files was for the cheaper one, and I questioned it. And he got back to me and explained what it was, but at least that was something that we're questioning it. It turned out it was okay. But, again, it's just another set of eyes. And I did tell Fran, I said, if you put me in the position, and I said, I'd gladly do this, of approving invoices for our projects, I said, I will turn them around within 3 business days. And if I don't, go ahead and pay them. I feel confident that in most cases I can do that in that short period of time. My point is I don't want to hold up anybody getting paid. That was the big fear.
So what I'll tell you, the 2 pages showing all the detailed transactions are correct. The summary schedule is incorrect.
Okay.
I was off one line when I copied that formula down. I just sent you an email, Barry, with the corrected numbers.
Okay.
I don't know if you can pull it up, but
Well, let's see.
I never claimed to be infallible, and one of the reasons I always put so much detail in front of you is because I know someone else looking at it may pick up on something that I overlooked as I was running through the stuff. It's like that old TV show, I prefer Grasshopper.
Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to put this up on the screen. Hang on.
The reason I like including the detail is as opposed to if I just put the totals up there, we would, other than an obvious question like, I say obvious, other than a good question like Dawn asked.
I can't put it up on the screen because I'm working from the same program from Google. So I can't, it's on a, just give me a second. I don't think there's any way for me to do this. Oh, yeah, I got it. Hang on. Okay. Here you go.
This is see the Halloran Park just jumped from 159 to 209. Cape and Reynolds shows $50,000, so they jumped from 22. Hanson went up to 439,000. It was at, where's Hanson? Is Hanson even on it? No, Hanson was missing.
Yeah.
That's a better breakdown. And that's the danger. I mean, in these files, now this file isn't as big as the 21,000. There's probably only 600 lines here, but I literally copied it off the wrong row. One row off and boom, and it looked good, and I knew the total was right. But I didn't look at the individual detailed projects to say they're right.
So the town project's gone and Hanson got increased.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
job.
thank you for correcting that.
Nice job.
Thank you for finding it.
Right.
So you see, the same total dollars, the same number of invoices, just, unfortunately, when it comes out of Munis, the Munis will give you totals by project, but when we get all this detail on the AP transactions and the other transactions, it doesn't have that number, so we have to go into the file and kind of manipulate it to figure out what project it is. And if you type it wrong or you're off the line, you're gonna get bad data.
Easy
No
enough to
excuse,
do.
I still should have checked it against something, but as long as we get it right at the end of the day.
Okay.
Thanks again to Michael and Barry for their time.
Well, thank you, Don, and thank you, Michael. All right, the next thing on our agenda is administrator's report. Just want to mention that special town meeting will be on Monday, March 2nd. That contains the warrant article for the community center. There will also be another special town meeting. It's within the annual town meeting in May. We don't have anything on it at this point, I don't think. And actually, we won't, because I think they closed the warrant on that last night. The other thing I want to mention, as Rich mentioned earlier, we were invited to the community center tour. Well, not exactly an open house, but tour of the interior on Saturday, February 28th, from 10 to 11. So hopefully we can, we can have good representation there from this committee. And that's the end of my administrative report. The next thing is CPC calendar. Kyle hadn't had a chance to see this before our last meeting. Let me bring it up. And it's a lot like this year's calendar. Just move the dates around. Again, this year, we're gonna hold a public hearing at our June meeting. That worked really well. It was, thank you, Michael, for that suggestion. We used to hold them in November, which,
Scramble.
yeah, this makes much more sense. And so because we hold it in June, now we can set our deadlines, as we did last year, August 15th for the pre-application, September 15th for the full applications. And I think that really worked beautifully. If we hadn't done that this year, we would have been so swamped that we'd be still, this meeting, we'd probably still be dealing with the applications that we got, because I think we got 10 applications for funding. We were able to manage it because we had allowed enough time. And, part of me says, well, this is a heck of a lot of lead time. It's almost a year in advance for town meeting, but it really isn't. Michael showed me in Falmouth, an advertisement for applications where their deadlines are pretty much a year, a full year before town meeting. So, that's,
Oh, it's more than that. Didn't I just send you Falmouth? It was in last week's Falmouth Enterprise for the April 2027 town meeting.
yeah, but I thought the deadlines were April of this year. No, maybe not.
I think that one was for the later, actually. I forget. But they go way out, and they have 2 meetings a year. But they only take emergency stuff in the fall
Okay,
for CPC.
okay. I just want to see if there's any other things of note. We did, what's on the agenda for this, it's on the calendar for this finalizing recommendations, and we already finalized the recommendations a while ago. We finalized the motions today. And just looking for things that stand out. Publish a request for proposals for projects right after our public hearing. We did move a couple of dates around, I think, because the first Wednesday was a holiday, I believe. Let me just see. Yep, April 8th. April 1st is Passover, so I took the liberty of moving that to the 8th.
There's 2 meetings in April, correct?
I'm sorry, but
Is there 2 meetings in April?
yes, because we can't meet on the first week of March because that would conflict with town meeting. So I moved it back to the previous week, yes.
Those 2 meetings I will not be able to make in April, just FYI,
Right.
work commitments.
We'll miss you. All right, so I'm not seeing anything else that jumps out at me that's unusual. We go into the first few months of '27 with this calendar, so we can always change this calendar. I'm just looking for a vote that we accept this so I can put it up on our website.
Let's do it.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the calendar.
Can we,
Oh.
were other people there seeing the calendar? I couldn't see it.
You didn't see it?
None of us have.
Oh, that's because, that's because.
They didn't put it on the screen. It wasn't in the packet.
Sorry. I'm sorry about that. Hang on. I thought I had it up on the screen the whole time. Thank you for pointing that out. So, again, in yellow, our public hearing, which is June, much better than November. And the deadlines to receive pre-applications, August 15th, full applications, September 15th, and that, like I said, that really worked well this year, because we would have been just buried if we hadn't. I mean, last year, the year before that,
We were pretty buried anyway.
we were buried by the number of applications, but we were able to process them. The year before that, we only had 2 applications, and we were still, working on them in January. That didn't happen this year. So that was good. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, so,
All right, so,
now that you've all seen it, does someone like to make a motion?
do we have a motion?
Sure, motion to approve
I
the
move we accept.
second.
Okay.
Okay, Dwight motioned it, Bob seconded it. Roll call, Bob,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes?
Dwight,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Bungay,
Yeah,
Michael,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
I might not be able to make that April 8th here as well.
Yeah, I know you're on.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, the next thing, and I'm trying to wrap this up.
The
because I'm-
calendar can't be changed. I mean,
Yeah.
Barry's just getting the vote so that he can publish it.
I'm just letting, so you have a quorum, so if the 2 of us are out,
Right.
Yeah,
I could do the 3rd week, or
well,
SRA meetings the 2nd week.
maybe we'll look at
Yeah.
doing that. What I did was I took our application, and I found it could be improved. And there were two main things that I changed, whoops, hold on. One of the things that I changed was the chart at the bottom. It used to say amount of other funding, and then underneath each line it said where the source is coming from. And sometimes that's not, you can't fit that on that line. There's really no point to having that. I thought on the first page it's just too crowded. And the other thing I changed was total of CPA funds requested. There used to be a separate column for every fiscal year. We very rarely use that, if ever. So I put it all together at the end. So I thought that kind of neatens it up and makes it easier to deal with. The other change that I made was basically required for proposals involving real property. I just went through the language and just made that a little bit clearer. So it doesn't say much, it says pretty much what it said before, but it just says it a little differently and a little clearer. And, you know, if you feel like you want to review this before you vote on it, I can certainly understand that. But if you feel that this is okay, that I can put this out and put this on our website too for new applications, if we get any immediate future, it's up to the committee what you want to do.
Well, there was no change in policy or procedure, you just changed the
No.
wording, basically?
Yep, no change in policy or procedure, it's just basically the formatting change.
So, do we have a motion to approve that form?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Hey, who made the second?
Don?
Okay. Roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
From me?
Yeah.
Chair says yes.
Okay. And we're almost at the end. Minutes, what I did was, typically what I do is the minutes from a previous meeting, at every meeting, and that helps me, because then I get a look at what I'm supposed to be doing, what we said we were gonna be doing. I've gotten behind, so like, I was back in September, so I said, okay, I'm just gonna skip ahead to do January's meeting, and I can always go back and do the others. So, we have minutes from January 7th, which was our last meeting, which I sent around to everybody, asking for you to approve that.
Okay, so, motion to approve January 7th minutes,
So moved.
second? Carl seconds it. Bob?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Umdi? Umdi?
Yes.
Yep, okay. Michael?
Yes.
Dwight?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Just had one thing I could mention.
Yes.
I think at the finance committee meeting on the community center, I think the town manager said that he was looking for additional funding for that project.
Really?
Yeah, and had received notification, I think, from Representative Lynch that morning that it had been moved forward, but, once it gets to one section, it gets to, but just, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, when I was watching the finance committee meeting the other night, that's what he had indicated. And he had said that if he did get funding for it, that he wouldn't need our funding, obviously, but I'm thinking it's a timing issue where, so. And also he had indicated that a lot of that work's gonna be done by the DPW.
Yep.
A lot of the material, I didn't realize this, was being donated by vendors throughout Stoughton.
Okay.
What it was, dirt, taking the dirt,
Papers.
pavers, all of that stuff had all been, so
Interesting.
there was a quick glance on the finance committee meeting the other night, which was, kind of surprised to me, so I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention,
Thank you.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah, I'm hoping that if they get more money, they could, there was a question as whether they could repair the clock mechanism.
Yeah.
And that would be nice if they could do that. 'cause I think it
That
has-
is gonna be phase 2.
Okay, so, well, I'm thinking if they get more money from the state, they might be able to do that now, but that's not up to me. All right, our next meeting will be exactly a month from today.
Okay.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
Speaking of adjournment, I did receive my town of Stoughton census that I'm are going to return without my name on it. So this is going to be my last meeting, folks.
Well,
Well, for everything, thank you, Michael.
Thank
You've
you.
been an
Thank you,
incredible
Michael.
partner
Yeah.
to work with.
I may still bump in just to find out what's going on, and then obviously, you all have my number and contact information. If you have a question or need something, I just wanna say hello.
well, you can always stop in at the next meeting virtually, if you feel like you're
But,
missing us.
yeah, I may do that, just to, I'm certainly gonna be interested in finding out what goes on as we get to town meeting. You know, I feel like I'm leaving a lot of work for you guys to do, getting all these projects done. Hopefully you don't get this many proposals next year, because you don't have enough money to do anything. You know, there's a lot of work to get these done.
Well, the townspeople can
I was
always,
excited when I first got that fiscal year 26 report, even though I didn't look at it detailed enough to catch the mistake. When I saw that we had spent $1 million, I said, wow, this really is moving along. This is good stuff. And it's been a lot of work, and a lot of work by the whole committee, so
well,
I'm
the nice,
excited to see them come to fruition.
the nice thing
Thank
is,
you one more time, Michael.
Yeah, personally, thank you very much for everything that you've done.
thank you, Michael.
Appreciate it.
Goes double for me.
So we have a motion to adjourn, we have it seconded, roll call,
Was
Bob?
there a second?
There was,
By Bob.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, Dwight seconded, Bob?
Yes.
Bob made the motion.
Okay.
So Bob,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
well, from me,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Dwight,